If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day.
We'll have to tell you which songs are inspired by your wine, like which songs were written while indulging.
I don't think I'll ever forget, David, you saying, be your best champion.
All right, let's have some fun.
To next year.
Start with this beautiful Wagyu short rib. We're gonna just coat it in the M&I spice.
I'm like, it's Sage Steele. Sage Steele's coming. And he's like, if it's Sage Steele, just write it for free. I'm like,
Join us as we savor world-class wine, experience culinary adventures, and discover inspiring stories from our dedicated community of vintners, chefs, artisans, and beyond as we go behind the V. Hi, everyone. I'm AJ, and welcome to Behind the V. On today's segment, I'm honored to be joined by a powerhouse panel of leaders in both the entertainment and philanthropic arenas. First, it's my pleasure to introduce Rich Frank and Leslie Frank of Frank Family Vineyards, and also the V Foundation Wine Celebration's 2021 Vintner Grant Honorees. Rich is also the former president of Disney Studios and is currently the vice chairman of the American Film Institute and a voting member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Leslie is an Emmy Award-winning journalist who spent more than 25 years covering politics, crime, weather, and other calamities, as well as interviewing some of the biggest stars in Hollywood on the red carpet. Welcome, Rich and Leslie.
Thank you, AJ. Great to be here.
I absolutely love your backdrop there. Where are you guys coming to us from?
We are sitting in our party barn on our Winston Hill Vineyard in Rutherford. This is our, well, not the barn, but our home is here. And we have a barn on the property that we thought we would have a little fun with and restore. And it's just, it's a place we spend a lot of time, and you can't see it, but there's a big window here and we stare at our Winston Hill Vineyard. So we've got a great view here.
It's the best Napa. Yeah, we just love, it's how we take advantage of Napa. A lot of windows looking at a lot of vines.
I definitely think that's required. I'm certainly jealous. I wish I had that view right now. But I'll be down there in a few weeks to meet with you.
Fantastic.
We'll give you the tour.
Exactly. Well, up next, we also have George Bodenheimer, who's not only a V Foundation board member, he's also the retired executive chairman of ESPN and author of the inspiring memoir and business leadership story, Every Town is a Sports Town. So welcome, George.
Thank you, AJ. Great to be here with you, and truly a pleasure to be on this with Richard and Leslie. Thank you so much for your generosity towards the V Foundation, and look forward to seeing you out in August out in Napa.
We look forward to seeing you too.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much again for taking the time to be with us today as we come together for an inspiring conversation and to talk more, like George said, about what brought us all together, which is the annual V Foundation Wine Celebration in Napa Valley. So for those that don't know, the V Foundation Wine Celebration is a 3-day world-class series of events in Napa Valley that benefits the V Foundation for Cancer Research. Net proceeds from this event, 100% of net proceeds from this event go directly to cancer research. And this year, we're excited to announce that we'll be helping to fund immunotherapy research as our fund in need. The event will be August 5th through 8th, and we have a great lineup of events ready to go for everyone this year. So as you can see on Thursday, we're going to be having our Hall of Fame luncheon at Perry Lang's in Yountville. And of course, Rich and Leslie will be hosting our humanitarian and founders dinner up at Winston Hill. We'll have our dinner with the docs at Farniente Winery, and the reception and private concert performance at Alpha Omega. Next up on Friday, we have our President and Vintner Grant Honorees luncheon at Louis Martini Winery. And of course, our super popular Rock the V event at the Estate Yountville. And we'll be bringing back our Vintner Barbecue and Wine Showdown this year for that. And then, of course, on Saturday, one of our most popular events is the Answer for Cancer Research Symposium, starting first thing in the morning. We'll follow that up by our Sonoma Epicurean Marketplace, our showcase auction and reception, and then, of course, the main event, our gala dinner program at Nickel and Nickel Winery. This year, we will be featuring Chef Michael Mina, and it will be co-hosted by our normal host, Coach K from Duke men's basketball, and ESPN basketball analyst Jay Billis, along with ESPN Sports Center anchor Sage Steele. And of course, George, you'll also be there that night to help us along with that event as well. And then we'll be topping everything off with our Dolce Lounge and Corona nightclub. So it's definitely set to be one of the most exciting years ever, I would say.
It's always one of the best events in Napa every year. People look forward to it, and people always go and have a good time. And you always manage to put it on in a terrific fashion. So we're glad to be involved in that, be able to spend the night there again, and just be involved through being honored by you. So thank you.
Thank you, Rich. And as you said, that kind of is a great segue into my next question specifically for you and Leslie. As I mentioned before, this year you have been honored as our 2021 Vintner Grant Honorees. And as the Vintner Grant Honorees, you get to select a specific genre of research that you would like to fund. So this year, obviously, you had selected lymphoma in honor of your mother and Edith, correct? Yes, your mother, Edith. And my first question for you is, what is the most significant aspect for you in being selected as the Vintner Grant Honorees for 2021?
I think it's the ability to help raise some money. There are so many charitable events up here, and we live in, God knows, one of the most charitable areas I've ever seen. We support so many different worthwhile charities, but wherever we could help, if we can be a part of it, we want to. It's so much need out there in so many areas. When you're fortunate enough to get to a point in your life where you can share what you have with other people, that's what makes you feel good. At least I hope it's what makes everybody feel good.
I think, AJ, when you were just reading the lineup of events for this year's V Foundation celebration, this is really an organization that brings the community together for such a worthwhile cause. Obviously, cancer research is ongoing, and there are so many different types of cancer. And as we all know, every single one of us has been touched by cancer in some way through someone we know, or perhaps you are a survivor. It's so important that we continue raising money and continue with the research, because things are changing all the time. But I really do feel that this event it just brings together the community, and even if you're not going to the big gala and spending a lot of money, the wineries are involved, the community is involved, the residents are involved, and I just think that it's important that that there is that community aspect to what happens at the V Foundation.
That you make a very, very good point on that. And that is something that we have aspired to create, especially within Napa Valley and beyond, and bringing in, our guests from outside of Napa Valley. It almost does feel like a family reunion every year. So that's one of the things when I first start talking to a lot of our vintners, we love that you're a part of the V family.
Well, the whole V Foundation feels like a family. That starts literally with Jimmy and the kind of charisma he had and how he cared about other people. And that flows through the culture of the V and through all of our events. And no more like at the wine celebration, as Rich and Leslie you're saying.
The beauty is it's not just one gala. You do events, educational events, other opportunities to get together to be able to hear what's happening. And the fact actually that when people give now, all the money goes to research, all the money goes in the right place, because you've been able through all these years to be able to set it up where you're not just raising money to pay for the party. You're raising money that's actually going to be spent well. And that's a great accomplishment that you've gotten to. And that's one of the reasons we were happy to be involved.
Thank you. We're very proud of that.
So, Rich and Leslie, you have both been so gracious, and once again, honored to have you as our Vintner Grand Honorees this year, as well as hosting our exclusive Humanitarian Founders Dinner. We can't wait to see you there in August. You know, among all of the other contributions that you've given to us this year for the month of June, you are also providing an incredible opportunity for our viewers and supporters to also give back to the foundation through this incredible wine offer that you're doing in this event. Leslie, can you tell us a little bit more about what you're offering this year?
Sure. Rich and I are really excited because we will be participating with you, AJ, in a virtual event on June 17th. And this is an informative event, but it's a fun event, and we hope to raise some money. Rich and I will be giving 25% of the proceeds of our wine package that we're putting together for this event to the V Foundation, and we'll be tasting some wines. We have Chef Christina McAmer, who is a Napa chef, who was actually introduced to me by Max Dooley of the V Foundation. And Christina will be pairing some really delicious dishes with the wines that we've selected. And if you want more information on that, you can go to our website at frankfamilyvineyards.com. So we hope to get a lot of viewers by informing people through Frank Family and the V Foundation to tune in for this fun-filled hour.
Thank you for the generosity of this package. It really shows the commitment you both have to the V, and it's very much appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you, George. So let me tell you about the package. What we're offering are 3 wines in the package. It's our 2012, which is the current vintage of our Lady Edith Reserve Sparkling Wine. That's a wine that made in the method champenoise way. It rests on the spent yeast cells for 6 years before disgorgement. So it's quite a lengthy process, and we're really proud of that wine. It's of course named for Rich's mom. We're also offering our 2018 Lewis Vineyard Chardonnay. That's 100% Chardonnay that comes from our Lewis Vineyard in Carneros. Lewis is our oldest grandson. We named our vineyards, aside from Winston Hill, which was named after a dog, our vineyards are named after the grandkids. And our 2018 Winston Hill Sangiovese. So we have 3 really delicious wines, and that'll be in the package. And of course, 25% going to the V Foundation.
And these are wines that you probably can never find out in the marketplace.
Small production wines.
Small production wines, just that you come to the winery, you get to taste them there, or wine club members. So it should be a fun package to get at home.
That's truly such a special opportunity. I can't wait for everyone to get in on that. It's definitely something that you don't want to miss. I know we've already talked a little bit about what we'll be doing on June 17th. And like you said, it's definitely going to be a fun-filled day. Leslie, so you have mentioned a couple times about Rich's mother, Edith. I would love for our viewers to hear more of her story.
Sure. Well, my mom was a quiet lady who ruled the roost. When we grew up, she was a lady who during the war worked at Macy's for $5 a week while my dad was in the Army. And we lived with my grandparents in Brooklyn, and we moved out to Long Island on the North Shore after the war. And when my dad was able to get a house because of being a veteran, my mom was always charitable and was always involved in local events. I remember the Cunningham Women's League that she did, and while she was nervous every day and had to write things down on cards to present them because she was always nervous to get up in front of groups, she collected at the time old clothes from people and what people were giving away, and always held a rummage sale and sold all of what people needed, and all the money went to the organization and was given to right people. So we were taught early on what was going on. I think her first involvement with anything in this arena was her best friend, her name was Zelda Grossberg, came down.
She had cancer.
Yeah, she came down with cancer early on, and it was a real shock to my mom, and she she passed away at a really early age, and my mom started
leukemia, right?
Yeah, from leukemia at the time, which they were just diagnosing as a cancer at the time. And she started the Zelda Grossberg Foundation on Long Island. And they built that up and did events, small, nothing like you're doing here, but small events to just start and get involved and to get people involved. Later on in life, when they moved down to Florida and she was older, she got lymphoma, which went to her brain. And at the time, there was very little they could do. They had to put a stent in her head and give her radiation through that. And it was really difficult. And they actually cured the cancer, but in doing it at the time, she lost the executive function of her brain, so that she lived to 94. My dad would never let her out of the house. She slept in the bed next to him all for the last 7 or 8 years, even not being able to communicate with any of us. But that's when we came, really involved and really started focusing on how widespread this single word cancer is in so many different places, and just struck home. So it's exciting to us to be able to be involved to a way, put her name on something, to put her name on a bottle of champagne that we're going to be able to offer out there, and just to be involved that way.
Well, thank you so much, Rich, for sharing that story. And we truly are honored to have both of you involved. We're honored to, even honor her memory through partnering with you on this offer and with the Vintner grant as well. So thank you. Leslie, turning to you, I have a question for you. You received the Philanthropy Award from the North Bay Business Journal in 2019, and you and Rich obviously have an inherent passion for people, culture, community, giving back, which is evident by your ongoing charitable work, obviously through not only Napa Valley, but beyond. What inspired that passion in your mission to give back?
Well, you mentioned at the introduction, AJ, I actually spent 26 years working in television news as a reporter and anchor. I'm from Canada originally, so the first 10 years I spent in Canada, and then moved to the US. My first US market was in Seattle, Washington, where I was the main anchor for the Fox affiliate for almost 7 years before moving to Los Angeles, where I worked for ABC. Same parent company as ESPN, where George spent some time. And, for a couple of decades, more than a couple of decades, I was telling other people's stories. And I saw a lot in that time, and I covered a lot. A lot of, really happy, positive stories, but more often it would be stories of tragedy and misfortune. And, I covered Katrina, I covered 9/11. I saw a lot of pain and suffering in my career. And I think that it just makes you grateful for what you have. And so after Rich and I met and were married and really started to focus on the wine business, we realized that, we are very fortunate people. We've both had success in our careers. We've had success in the wine industry. Yes, that's because we work hard, but we've been lucky too. And I think that, we have great support from the community and from our Frank family fans. And so any opportunity that we have to give back to organizations such as the V Foundation and there are others that we're very involved with as well. We want to do that. And Napa is a place, as I mentioned, that is very community oriented, and we have the opportunity to do that. So I think just really seeing a lot over my time as a journalist and appreciating my life and our life together and what, and not taking it for granted. And so when we have the opportunity to do something for someone else, I think it's your I think it's important that we all give back, you know?
I think that is an excellent message. And thank you for sharing that, Leslie. Obviously, you are a very inspiring individual in Napa Valley for all that you do for the community. So once again, we're just grateful to have you partnered with us and honored to have both of you with us. So once again, as everyone's tuning in, I am here with George Bodenheimer, V Foundation board member and retired executive chairman of ESPN, and then Rich and Leslie Frank of Frank Family Vineyards. Rich being the former president of Disney, and Leslie having a very, very successful career for 26 years in journalism. I'm so excited to get into this, talking about the world of television and impact, and really digging deep. I can't wait to hear just input from all of you. Rich, we're going to go ahead and start with you. Obviously, you had, Disney is such an iconic company. Can you tell us a little bit more about your time there and what brought you there?
You need 2 hours for that, what brought me there. There's been many books written on what brought us from Paramount to Disney. And unfortunately, I left right before they purchased ABC, so I wasn't a part of the ABC-ESPN merger, but I wrote the memo that they should buy that the spring before. And actually, Michael Eisner called me early the morning before the announcement was going to go on CNBC. He was going on. He called early in the morning. I was in LA, and he said, "We just made the deal to merge these." And I thought you'd want to know early. It was just such a nice thing to get waken up to. Disney's a special company. It's not just a brand name. It's a company that actually cares about what they get involved with, and a company that strives to do things as good as possible. And it's not a company that pinches pennies to save on something when it could be even better. It's a company that lives on excellence. Look, just the brand by itself, it was often said when we were there, the day you embarrass a mother with her child, you will lose those people forever, because no one goes to a Warner movie or a Paramount movie or a Sony movie, but people go to a Disney movie, because it's been all of those years letting you know that you can feel comfortable in a Disney movie. Disney movies don't need ratings R and PG and all the different ratings that are out there. You know what you get. So that's great in one case. It's a real issue in another as you're looking for product to do. We did everything from Golden Girls and Empty Nest to Home Improvement, and on television. Television's not the same anymore. This last few years with streaming, remember when you used to have to wait for Tuesday night so you could watch this show or that show? And
everything's on demand now.
Then now it's on demand. It's streamed to you. You can watch 8 hours in a row of something. And by the way, I was president of the Television Academy for 6 years and very involved with what was being produced. What's being produced today is better than anything ever. The money being spent and committed to television today, not just on television programs, but on movies and documentaries, and it just goes on. We're seeing all these mergers. We may call it TV today, but it's really just a computer that's feeding us everything, and the world has changed.
The movies at Disney.
We did a few good movies. We started with Down and Out in Beverly Hills, which was our first.
But Little Mermaid to Lion King.
Yeah, I was there from Little Mermaid to Lion King, which was sort of fun. It is a whole new world. But we were able to do Dead Poets Society and Good Morning Vietnam and Pretty Woman and just a whole variety of movies. Great people that we could work with. You know, as an executive, you're the one who makes a decision and puts up the money, but the talent is what's out there that puts these things together. And you have to find great writers and great producers and great directors and on-camera people. But it's easier when you're with Disney because they want to come and work for that company.
You know, it's interesting. I'm just seeing so many parallels here. And again, a lot of this I'm hearing for the first time as well, as far as the values behind it. And what's interesting is that a lot of the values that you talk about, Rich, are similar values that I've actually heard from George in leadership. Particularly, George, I know you and I have talked several times about leadership, and one of the key things that you always say is it's all about the people. That's what you're known for. It's all about the people. Can you speak a bit more to that? It's really interesting because ESPN kind of has this similar dynamic of having also not limited, but, you know, having a very specific content as well. So it's really interesting to see the parallels between the two companies.
Yeah, I really don't think it's very complicated. I think as a leader, as a manager, as an executive, you just truly have to care about your people and not just say that you do, but truly demonstrate that you do. And when you do that, whether you're running the Disney company or the ESPN company or the V Foundation, that's when people are at their best. And you work as a team and you accomplish more than you ever thought you could imagine. And that's really how ESPN prospered. We operated as a team, and we treated people with respect, and we cared about each other. I used to say that ESPN was a family-oriented company, and once in a while you get a cynical question thrown back at you, like, well, what does that actually mean? And I would say, well, we care about each other. That was my answer, and it wasn't any more complicated than that. And so I believe that.
Yeah, we've addressed that also with the name of our company, Frank Family. It's Leslie and I, but our family are the people that work for us. When we see someone come out of high school at 16 years old and come over and work after school.
Well, they're in high school.
Yeah,
right?
That they pack boxes and then they stay with us and they say, I want to go to college. Can I set up a schedule so I can go a few days a week and still keep my job? And we do that. And then later on, we watch them come back and get married and have children and buy a house. That's the family. They are your family. Everybody cares. Yeah. And it's something you can do here and something we've always wanted. And, you know, it's how you treat your people also, George. It's you know, we always said we never have customers, we always have guests. That was a Disney mantra at the very beginning. Welcome, come in. Not come in and buy something. Welcome, right. Come in, enjoy.
Well, I love hearing that, what you just said about your younger employees who were then going to go to college and you take care. I love that. That's exactly what we're talking about here, AJ. And obviously the Frank Family Vineyards employs that same culture, and that's what leads to success. That's why they are successful, and that's why they produce great wine. It's really not any more complicated than that.
It's to George's point. It's about that family connection with your employees, and I definitely think that we have that with our staff, and I think, you know, the longevity of many of our staff is proof to that. So.
By the way, I just want to go off script for a moment. I mean, the story which you told about your mom, and now you're in a position to name that sparkling wine after her, and Leslie, the anecdote that you provided about your career and how you were successful, and now you have the ability to live where you do and give back to the community. Those are both very meaningful stories, and thank you for sharing those.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, you live it, and a lot of us started without a lot. Other people could have done what we did. We had the opportunity. it's luck, it's skill, it's hard work, but a lot of it's luck sometimes. And when you get it, we
You
like
don't
to
take it for
share
granted.
it. Yeah, we like to. It's important to do that.
Right.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, the most important thing for all of us is our health. If you don't have your health, what do you have? And so whatever we can do collectively to improve the health and of people who are suffering with cancer and prevent cancer in the future, why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we?
And people should remember, it was said to me many times, there's no luggage rack on a hearse. And so there's only so much you can take with you. So you may as well enjoy giving it away when you, in the right way, when you can, while you can.
Right.
It's funny you say that, because the version of that I heard was you never see a hearse following a hearse, or a trailer following a hearse.
Right.
But the same concept.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Same idea for sure.
It's interesting just with this conversation, talking about everything that we're talking about right now is influence and impact, and talking about that through philanthropy, through giving back, through even establishing cultures, through Disney, through ESPN, through V Foundation. It's establishing this culture. So it's well known that media has a large influence on our culture. I'm interested, how did that responsibility affect each of you in your individual roles as being kind of key leaders in your respective industries?
George, you want to start?
Whenever we get a tough question, I always say ladies first. No, I'll be happy to give that a shot first. I mean, I think, AJ, we looked at it, we looked at our mission to serve sports fans in everything we did, whether it was to enter a new business, or to run this story tonight on SportsCenter, or to do this deal with this league, what have you. We put everything through that prism, and we tried to always keep our fans and sports fans in focus. They were the reason for our being, and we tried to treat them with respect, give them the facts. When you make a mistake, correct it. We certainly made plenty of those, and just try to treat the fans with the respect that they deserved. And that's how we tried to operate the business, and that was it.
I'm thinking back now to when I was at Paramount, and Gary Marshall, who I'm sure you remembers, did Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and Mark and Mindy and all of these shows, became a very good friend of mine. And he said to me, if you preach in your shows every week, no one will watch. But when they're not paying close attention, you can really get some important things into these shows. And I remember he said that right after he had Fonzie get a library card on Happy Days. And the next day, like 1 million library cards were gotten in America.
He was stressing the importance of
yes,
literacy.
You could tell it was, whether it was television shows putting on, making the drivers wear their seatbelt when they got into the car. It was television, even though it really hurt, getting cigarette advertising off of television. When we did Dead Poets Society, it was a story about how people raise their kids. Wasn't done for that. It was done to be a commercial success. But the underlying story, I had, after that came out, I was playing golf, and they came up to me at a table afterwards when we were having lunch and said, "Thank you, I'm going to raise my son differently." And that's when you look and you say, that's not why I do that, and I don't want that responsibility. But within what you're doing, if you pay attention to it, and you can really get important results out of it, because people aren't looking at it to criticize it. They're looking at it as part of society and what people do.
I think working as a journalist, you know, you definitely have a responsibility. You should have the responsibility if you call yourself a journalist to tell both sides of the story or all sides of the story. Sometimes there's more than two sides to the story, and to not just, you know, settle for one explanation, to investigate further. And I think that I think journalism is really suffering in this country and has been for the last number of years. And I'm not really involved with the industry so much anymore, except that Rich and I are working with the journalism program at the University of Illinois, which is Rich's alma mater. And we've made a significant donation there to launch the Frank Center for Innovation and Leadership in Media, because we feel strongly about the state of journalism in this country. And I think we need to get back to some basics, you know, the fundamentals of journalism and the responsibility of telling the factual story.
You know, you do touch on a really great point there, Leslie, as you talk about storytelling and the importance of that. So I'm curious, as you were talking with your passion with that, what are your thoughts on the importance of storytelling when inspiring impact or influencing change or giving back?
Well, I think it's important to tell those stories. You know, it seems like when you put the news on today, it's all doom and gloom. And honestly, you know, in the last year that we've all had, who the heck wants to listen to it? I mean, yes, we have a responsibility to stay informed. It's important, but you know, there are a lot of great stories out there that are not being told, and you know, stories of empowerment and enlightening stories, you know, for the viewer. And I wish that we would maybe focus a little bit more on that and not all the doom and gloom. And
the only thing I would add, just going back to the original question, is ESPN does an awful lot of storytelling, showcasing a lot of the good work that a lot of athletes are doing in their communities in many different ways. And that's been a big part of what we've done for 40 plus years now. And you know, to the point that Rich and Leslie are making, there is a lot of good in this world too, and a lot of things that people are doing. And I'm proud of the ESPN company for showcasing some of that, and in its own piece of the television world, the sports world.
You've done phenomenal work there. I mean, the stories, and it's not just covering a ball game. That's, strangely enough, that's, yes, it's always there. And if you like the sport, you watch it. If you don't, you don't watch it. But you've always gone back and done documentaries on people, on leagues, on charitable things that people do. That's always been a hallmark of what you've done.
Thank you.
I think you should be very proud of that. That's,
no,
it is. It's not just sports. It's you know, it's information you're giving. It's important.
I would agree with that. And I think, George, that also kind of goes back to the whole Disney parent company thing, because I know that working for ABC in Los Angeles, you know, our station was very involved with certain communities. You know, the Boys and Girls Club was one of them. You know, the toy drives at Christmas, and you know, there were a number of organizations that ABC was involved with too. And you know, we did try to make a point to have that feel good story.
And I'd like to chime in too. One of the things, and George, obviously, I know with ESPN's leadership, I know that part of that culture is obviously streamed into the V Foundation. You know, one of the things in the importance of storytelling, kind of also speaking, Leslie, to what you were talking about, before coming to the V Foundation, the generic response I received from a lot of my friends when they received a diagnosis for cancer wasn't good. It was very kind of doom and gloom-ish, if you will, to kind of go off of what you were saying. And one of the things I've learned with the V Foundation, and I think that they do such an amazing job of, is promoting the real facts on the just the progress that we've made in cancer research, even, since 1993. And one of the things that comes out the most in a lot of the stories that they tell, they're stories of hope. And the V Foundation is giving people hope through cancer research. And that's something that I love being able to spread and tell. Now when people come to me and they talk about cancer, I can confidently tell them there is excellent research being done in this field right now, and you do have hope. And I think that's one of the key things that has driven me to work with the V Foundation for so long, is being able to tell people that there's hope.
I think that was obvious, AJ, just in the intro to this interview segment, just watching, the involvement from the community and our fellow Vintners, just seeing all of, that sort of feel good stuff right off the top, I thought was well done.
What's interesting is the Saturday morning symposium, which has turned into, I don't want to say the centerpiece of the weekend, but one of them. And, when you think you're going to Napa for fine wine and food for a beautiful weekend, and the Saturday morning symposium turns out to be standing room only year after year after year, it shows you, it demonstrates clearly what AJ just said, that it's so much hope, because you listen to these doctors and it's so inspirational, the work they're doing with the money that is provided by the V Foundation and other organizations. It's pure hope. It's pure inspiration. It's worth getting up for on a Saturday morning. You wouldn't miss it.
Look, we all love a happy ending, and we all want to get to that ending, and you all want to see the end of the race, all of the things that we aspire to. We know we won't get them all, but the journey there. I don't want to say it's more important than the end, because if you can, in certain things you can get to an end, you can move on to another journey, but you have to enjoy the journey while you're taking it, and try to do as good as you can, or as much as you can.
Well said.
Speaking of journeys, I think it would be appropriate to go back and kind of talk a little bit about the beginning and where the V Foundation all started. George, I read in your book, which is fantastic, by the way. I was in tears by the end of that chapter. When former CEO of ESPN, Steve Bornstein, he presented Jim and Pam Valvano with the idea to start the V Foundation for Cancer Research when Jim was going through his cancer battle. You mentioned in your book that you thought in part that they were deeply moved because corporations simply didn't do things like that at that time. And obviously, as we've talked about now, both Disney and ESPN, ESPN was already known as being a forerunner in the television industry for everything that you were doing. And during that same time, you were pioneering what we now know as the ESPYs. Did you have any inclination or sense that something immensely impactful was going to happen leading up to that event, that ESPN was literally about to stage one of the most iconic speeches of all time?
Absolutely not. Our idea in creating the ESPYs was the sports world is so big and important part of the culture of the United States and the world that there should be an award show. And if there's going to be an award show, it has to be our company to do it. That was the 2-sentence summary of why we launched the ESPYs. Steve Bornstein deserves all kinds of credit for bringing the idea of the V Foundation to Jimmy. And then we put the show together, the Arthur Ashe Award for Courage, getting to utilize such an iconic person as Arthur Ashe to present this cherished award. But it's the first year, so you don't really know what you have, and it's all coming together. And the story's been told many, many times that how Jimmy really barely made it up from North Carolina to New York City. If it wasn't for Mike and Mickey Krzyzewski escorting Jim and Pam, he probably wouldn't have made it. And he was only 6 weeks away from passing away, as we all know now. And then, when you get to the Madison Square Garden that night, and he's presented this award, and it was almost as if the cancer left his body for minutes. And he delivers this out-of-body speech that we've all seen so many times. I call it the best 10-minute speech in history. Seen it probably 15,000 times, never turn it off. never not be motivated by seeing it. And we've gone on from there to do what we've done. But no, we had no idea what was in store that night, or the ESPYs would be here 30 years later, and the V Foundation would prosper as well. We did not know.
Every writer in history has tried to recreate that moment in their own way, saying something else. It'll never be, it is the most iconic,
Authentic,
emotional
impactful.
piece that I've ever seen, and it can't be recreated.
And every year, it brings the tear to my eye. Every year we watch that.
It's the best.
It truly is. And, you know, George, kind of diving a bit deeper into that, one of the things, you know, I was just talking with Jane about this yesterday, the unique perspective that you have coming from the perspective of ESPN. We all see it from the viewership, from the story of Jimmy, and we highlight Jimmy V so much. But from the perspective of ESPN, you know, what advice or motivation would you give to other corporations today based on your experience with those pivotal events and the lasting impact and legacy that Jimmy V and the V Foundation have had?
It's very simple. I would just tell anybody running an organization to do things, do something that the people care about. The V Foundation is an integral part of the ESPN company because the people care about it. People who weren't even born when that speech was delivered at Madison Square Garden, but they've seen it, to Rich and Leslie's point, and they believe it, and they've all been impacted, unfortunately, by cancer. So, you know, they're motivated, but you know, the people care about the V Foundation at ESPN. That's why the company is devoted it, and the people are devoted to it. So that's what I would tell anybody running an organization. Find something your people are passionate about.
Yeah, but it's what you do. You tell stories every day. No one would care about Phil Mickelson winning at 50 years old in golf if they hadn't been told about his story and knew the path he took to get there and became, you know, rooting for him. And it happens every day. When people do the Olympics, it's not the 10-second race. It's the build up for months about who the people in the race are, what they went through to get there. And I was saying to you earlier, it's what you've done and so much of what goes on that network. You tell the stories and the people become attached to those people.
Up close and personal.
Yeah.
Take the old ABC adage from the
So, George, as you talk about in your book, you worked your way up from the mailroom to the boardroom at ESPN. That is a very, very large accomplishment. You've helped build it into the very, very prominent brand that it is today. What are some of the key takeaways that you learned after working your way up the ladder there?
You know, I think it's a lot of things we've talked about here today with Rich and Leslie, and they put these same things into the Frank family vineyards. I mean, you got to believe in what you're doing, number one. Number two, you know, hard work, never going out of style. Got to outwork others. And number three, you got to be prepared to take risks, which we took all the time, year after year at ESPN to grow. And I would say those three things can help anybody succeed, just as they helped ESPN succeed.
It takes a lot of failure to get some success. If you're in the entertainment business or in the sports business or all of those.
In any business.
You know, I used to say if we made 20 movies a year and 5 were successful, you know, it was a successful year. And when the bean counters would come in and say it would have been a better year if you didn't make these 3 movies, I would say, here's the list for next year. You pick out the 3 I don't make, because I thought they would all be a hit.
Yeah.
But you live in a world, when you're in entertainment, of a lot of failure for a little bit of success. But when that success comes, it really pays off in so many different ways. So yes, risk is a giant word that is not always understood, especially in some of the creative worlds. Yeah.
It's funny because Rich, I was actually going to turn to you next and ask what your key takeaways were from working at Disney. It sounds like you've had a few, but if there are others that you may share.
What I take away from my life in the entertainment business was I had so many great years, met so many great people, was able to see the world in different ways, live through, 10 presidents for sure, watched the world change, and was able sometimes to bring something forward that made a difference in some people's lives, but also made people laugh, made people cry.
Next, one of the pieces with Behind the V that I love, specifically with interviewing such prominent figures, is talking about inspiring the next generation. So George, I personally believe Robin Roberts said it best when she said the one word to describe you is inspiring. I completely agree. And I've heard, obviously we've talked among all of you today that it is all about the people. And George, you've said that you believe anyone can become a leader. So what advice would you give the next generation of leaders or those that have a passion and calling to lead? What would you give the next generation?
I think have confidence in yourself. If you work hard, that builds your confidence. Do things you care about, be passionate about, and find mentors and people that you respect to associate yourself with. I think those things will pay off for young folks.
Rich and Leslie, how about you? What advice would you give the next generation?
I think I would echo a lot of what George is saying, but I would also say, hone your craft, be the best that you can be, and don't expect it to be given to you. You've got to work for it. To echo the words of Jimmy V, never give up, because if that's what you want to do, if you have a dream, then you should pursue that and you should be the best at it. But it's only you that's going to get you there.
I agree with both of those. I would say if you can figure it out early, find something you want to do. Find an area you want to be in. Look for that at the very beginning. Because if you're lucky enough to get into that and then you work hard, you'll be smiling all the time because work won't be work. It'll just be a name. You'll be there. It's not all about get there before. So your car's there before the boss's car's there, and it's there after he leaves. And it's not that. If you're doing it and you enjoy it, all of those will happen because you're never going to leave a project undone. You won't let something sit when you know it could be a little better. And nobody's going to teach you that. You have to teach yourself that, because then you can stand up prouder and say, yes, I did this, I made that, I worked with somebody on this, and it was a success, or I wish it would have been better, or I've learned something for the next time. Just go at it full stride and try to, whatever you pick, just try to be better than everybody else.
That is actually an excellent segue into my next question, which I was going to pose to you once again, George, as we kind of wrap up. You've been here since the beginning, and you have helped the V Foundation grow into what we see it as today. So what one thing are you most proud of to see in that growth?
Well, there's a lot of things, so that's a hard question, but I would say we're seeing the thousands of young researchers, which was Jimmy's vision to support young people, and the work that they do. It's so inspirational. I never tire of hearing from the doctors on the work they're doing. That's what I'm most proud of. There's a lot of progress being made, and I'm proud to play a small part in it.
And to do a plug really quick on what you're talking about with that, for those that aren't aware of the V Foundation and our V Scholar program, you can find out more information on that at v.org. It is one of the things that we are very passionate about, is funding young and upcoming researchers. George, what would you like to see next for the V Foundation?
Well, I think if we do our jobs, if we do it right, we can continue to raise substantial monies. We can continue to support world-class research, and I'd love to see us put ourselves out of a job. I mean, there's no intention here of running the V Foundation in perpetuity. Nobody is thinking that here. We're thinking about, achieving the goal of defeating cancer. It's not just sort of something you put on your marketing materials. That is the goal here. And if we do it right, I'd like to see us put ourselves out of work is what I'd like to see.
I love that.
Absolutely.
It is. We saw this year what scientists can do when they have to.
Right.
I mean, they
With
went
the vaccine. Yeah.
all a new way. They went and they did it in their computers. They figured it out. They looked at genes. And in an impossible situation, they came up with vaccines. Yes, you have to pray for the day when someone walks in and says, we got it. This will take care of all the different cancers.
Yeah.
And strive to get there.
We are. We're getting closer and closer every day. Like Dr. Bast, I always love quoting him. It's one of my favorite quotes. He says, it's not a matter of if we cure cancer, it's a matter of when.
Yes.
And just one last point on that. I mean, again, there's so many things to like and love about Jimmy Valvano. I love the fact he carried 3x5 index cards around with him with his goals on them. And of course, the last one was to beat cancer. That's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, again, I can't thank all of you enough. This has been such an incredible interview. Thank you all for sharing your insight and your wisdom. I can't wait for our viewers to hear it and receive the feedback. Obviously, Leslie, thank you. Leslie and Rich, thank you once again for this incredible offer that you are providing our supporters. We'll have the information below on the screen, and we can't wait to see everybody on June 17th. It is going to be a very fun episode. I can't wait.
We're excited about that. AJ, we might put you to work and have you, help the chef cook along.
I can do that. Chef Charlie Palmer actually had me help him on his. I don't know if that was a smart idea or not, but I am definitely willing to help.
No, we're looking forward to that. June 17th, Frank Family Vineyards, the V Foundation, and we're going to be cooking and sipping wine.
Fantastic. And then we can't wait to see, obviously, George, when you come out and join us and help host the wine celebration in August, along with Jay Billis and Sage Steele and Coach K, and Paul Bagala will be there as well. It's going to be a fun-filled, inspirational weekend, I know, from August 5th through 8th.
We're looking forward to it.
Thanks for
Thank you.
for having us on.
Rich and Leslie, look forward to seeing you in August. Thank you.
We'll see you in August, George.
Yeah, see you then. Thanks so much. AJ, thank you. Okay.
Thank you, guys. And until next time, everyone, don't give up. Don't ever give up.